November 1st, 1903. What with school and getting Mama started sewing, I have barely had time to write. But started she is, and I must thank Yitzy for his help. Despite his help, he is still very annoying. He says Blue and I are not making as much progress as he did. By this time last year, he was in 3rd grade. Through one of his connections, however, he got an order for Mama. It's not exactly an uptown lady, but close. It's an uptown lady's children's governess. Yitzy knows someone who knows her through City College up on Lexington Avenue and 23rd Street. He says if she likes the work, she'll tell her employer, or maybe her friends at City College. It's a skirt and vest, but Yitzy says, who knows? It could turn into a whole, what he calls, ensemble, which I guess means a coat too. I've never heard of women wearing coats that much, mostly shawls, but Yitzy knows everything. November 2nd, 1903. I am writing this in English. My English is getting a lot better because I really think helping Mama with the sewing is helping me with my English. I make a big effort to say not just one word, but a whole sentence with a subject and a verb. So I say, this is the thread for the bobbin. November 3rd, 1903. Blue and I both want to be Marie Curie. She is going to receive the most important prize in the world for science. She is going to receive the Nobel Prize in Physics for her work with her husband on uranium and radioactivity. I do not know how to explain these in Yiddish. Forget English. I read about Marie in the newspaper that Tova brings home and helps me translate. November 8th, 1903. Don't think I am giving up on writing English. I am not at all. For at the moment I am writing a composition for school on Marie Curie. Finally something Yitzy is not an expert on. Radioactivity and uranium. But Tova's friend Mandy is. And guess what? This is so exciting. He took me and Tova uptown to the library at City College. It is red brick and has ivy-covered walls and spires, and I do believe you get smart just by putting one foot inside that college. For I did. Suddenly I began to understand the English that was being spoken around me. Not all of it, not a lot of it, but a bit of it. We saw many fashionable women uptown. The young ones who are the students at City College look very nice, too. We have finished the skirt and vest for the governess, so I hope she tells her college girlfriends. November 13th, 1903. Only 30 minutes until Lich Benston, and things are happening just too fast, so I don't know how I will have time to write. First, guess what? Blue and I have been promoted. We start 3rd grade on Monday. We are ahead of schedule by a whole month. Hanukkah doesn't start this year until December 14th. I think the teacher was very impressed with my composition about Marie Curie. Also, the uptown governess has come back, not for her college girlfriends, but for the entire household staff. The lady of the house wants new uniforms for the servants. The governess lady, oh, she has the most wonderful name, Caroline, says if we do a good job, the lady might have us make some clothes for the children. November 15th, 1903. I spent all Sunday morning cutting. First collars for the uniforms for Mama's uptown job, and then pictures of Marie Curie. Mandy brought over some other newspapers. I stick them to the wall above my bed with spirit gum or tailor's tape. The Sheehan's youngest baby is very sick. We hear him wailing across the air shaft. November 16th, 1903. It feels so good to be in 3rd grade. Blue and I are only a foot or so taller than the other kids. But Blue is not so happy. She says her parents are fighting all the time. I try to suggest the compromise we did with my parents, which seems to be helping. But Blue says that is not the problem. Her mother doesn't care whether her father is pious or not. She just wants him to make more money, because now they are having another baby, and she wants a bigger apartment. I think it would be hard to compromise with Mr. Wolfe. He always has a sour look on his face, and he never says anything. November 17th, 1903. Why can't everybody be happy at the same time and then sad at the same time? It would be easier. I am now happy and out of step, I think, for in addition to Blue being so upset, Yitzy is. He says his father is a schnook. I don't know what he meant. So what's a schnook, I ask. He says it's a patsy. So what's a patsy, I ask. You know, he says, someone who gets taken advantage of. The boss in his father's factory charged him for some cloth that he claims he was shorted on in an order. Yitzy says the boss thinks his father is stealing material to make samples of his own. Yitzy wants him to quit and go to work for Brooks Brothers, but his father is very timid. Nothing like Yitzy. November 19th, 1903. I cannot stop thinking about Marie Curie. Imagine a woman being a scientist. We think it's so great because at the synagogue at Simchat Torah, we were allowed to touch the Torah. November 20th, 1903. The Sheehan's baby died last night. It was so sad. Mrs. Sheehan is very poorly. We hear her crying all day, all night. Mama went over with some food, and she helped clean up the other children. The old grandma is useless. The Irish ways of death are not like the Jewish ways. They do not bury the dead person immediately. They have a wake, and they dress up the dead person very fancy, and keep the person in the casket in the living room for people to see and say goodbye. Mama says we must all pay a call. I am dreading it. I do not want to look at a dead baby boy. November 21st, 1903. Well, we all went and looked at the little Sheehan boy. It was not as bad as I thought. He looked beautiful, as if he were sleeping, all clean with his hair neatly combed. He wore a little gray suit with a flower sticking out from under his collar. What was worse looking was that grandmother. She was muttering in some weird language. Sean later told us that she speaks Gaelic, or Irish sometimes. Mr. Sheehan just sat there, again looking back and forth between his wife and his mother, as if trying to figure out which one to comfort. Poor Mrs. Sheehan. I just feel so sorry for her. November 23rd, 1903. It feels easy now writing to you in English, because guess what? When Shabbos finishes, I begin to write a letter to Marie Curie in English. You notice I only write in present tense. It is easier for me. I feel obliged to say Mazel Tov, congratulations, to Dr. Curie. She teaches at the Sorbonne in Paris. Mandy maybe knows the address. I hope she speaks English, because although I understand Polish, and she is born in Poland, I cannot write it. I do not think she speaks Yiddish. I tell her that she is a wonderful woman, that she is a wonderful scientist, that when I grow up I want to be a scientist. I ask her what course of study should I follow at City College. I ask her if she has ever heard of City College on 23rd Street and Lexington Avenue. I do not tell her that I am in the 3rd grade. Now I am going to work even harder. November 23rd, 1903. I should bite my tongue. Mama and I were working today on the order for the uniforms for the uptown lady servants. Mama is not wearing her wig, but has a scarf covering her head, and some of her hair sneaks out, and I am thinking how young she looks, how much better she would look in her own hair. So I say, Mama, why don't you think of going in your own hair? Blue's Mama does. And she gives me a very dark look, like this is no business of yours. So I quickly shut up. And then, under her breath, I hear her quote Tanta Fruma. The greatest folly of a fool is when he thinks he's smart. Then, a few seconds later, another installment thanks to Tanta Fruma. A mother's slap won't give a child a hole in the head. But even though she does not slap me, 2 Tanta Frumas in a row is like being spanked. I'll never speak again of the wig. November 25th, 1903. You will never guess what's happened. Blue's father has disappeared. Left, gone, vanished. At first I said to Blue, you must go to the police, for I was thinking something terrible might have happened to him. You hear of thugs hitting people on the head for their money and leaving them for dead. Blue said that she told her mother the same thing, but her mother said no. She knew that nothing like that had happened to him. He was simply gone. I asked, how does she know? Did he leave a note? Blue just shrugged her shoulders. I feel I cannot ask any more. And her mother is expecting another baby, and this is so awful. How will they live? And to think just yesterday I was telling Mama how Blue's mother didn't wear a wig. Now Mama will say, see? November 26th, 1903. I am so mad at Yitzy I could wring his neck. Blue and I were in the pig market doing errands. We were at our usual soda shop drinking soda and sharing a pickle when Yitzy comes up. He sees that Blue's face is all blotchy from crying. Now wouldn't you think he'd take a hint and go away when I say that Blue has a private problem? No, not Yitzy. "What's wrong with Blue?" he asks. So we have to tell him. And then Yitzy goes into the whole Megillah all about his connections at the police department, and how he knows somebody who knows somebody in the Department of Missing Persons, and how he can mention it to a Mr. So-and-so. While Blue is so innocent and trusting, this actually raises her hopes. And what can I say? I know Yitzy. He's talking through his hat. That's an English expression I just learned, and I love it. It means you know nothing about nothing. You just talk for the joy of hearing your own voice. That's Yitzy. I decided to change the subject real fast. How's your father? I ask. Complete silence. Not for long, though. He raises a finger, like some Talmudic scholar. I want to talk to you about that, he says, and then adds, but now is not the occasion. He just about tips his yarmulke at us, the way uptown fellas tip their hats, I am told, to ladies. I give Yitzy another 6 months with his yarmulke, and maybe 4 with the fringes. November 27th, 1903. Mama did not say see when I told her about Mr. Wolfe. Not even a word about the wig. She was very upset, though. She says Papa and Reb Simcha must take the case to Beth Hamradash Haggadol, where we go to synagogue. They have a relief committee that helps immigrant women and children. And she insisted that Mrs. Wolfe come for Shabbos dinner tonight. It will be bedlam with all those babies. Mama is now talking about if we get more orders, we could send some of the dresses for Mrs. Wolfe to do the finish work on. Things like the buttons and trim, which are hand sewn and do not require a machine. Tova told me tonight that Mr. Wolfe is not the first immigrant husband to simply disappear. It is funny. If this had happened in Russia, we would immediately think that the man had been killed by ruffians, or drafted by the Tsar, or for that matter, murdered by the Tsar's soldiers. Here that never crossed anyone's mind. Everyone is quite sure Mr. Wolfe is not dead. He is just simply gone. I wish he would come back. I feel so bad for Blue. November 29th, 1903. Sean O'Malley came after Shabbos to put out the lights for us, and after the Wolfes left, Miriam took him aside and told him about how Mr. Wolfe had disappeared. She thinks he might be able to help because of all his connections with the fire and police departments. His connections are real, I think, unlike Yitzy's. He met Mr. Roosevelt, the president. Once Mr. Roosevelt was head of the police board in New York. Sean has lots of stories about Theodore Roosevelt. So does Uncle Moishy, for that matter. He made Roosevelt's cavalry uniform for the Spanish-American War. Well, bully. That's one of Theodore Roosevelt's favorite expressions, according to Uncle Moishy. He said he felt just bully when he came back from the Spanish-American War and charged up San Juan Hill. There is no translating it into Yiddish. So bully and good night.